Welcome to Idea Success TV. Idea Success TV is your video cast that focuses on trends, practices, and solutions for moving ideas to action for both purpose and profit. Hear stories from people who have taken their ideas and brought them to reality to make an income and to impact the world. Be a part of ideation and pitch sessions. Learn about business trends and discover best practices and innovative ideas for bringing thoughts into reality and plans into action. And now, here's your host, Sylvia Henderson. Hello and welcome to Idea Success TV. I'm Sylvia Henderson, your host, and this segment I call Idea Success with Sylvia because in all my other segments, I introduce you to professionals who I know, professionals who I meet, so that I can share their expertise with you to help you get your ideas out of your heads and your hearts and into action. And then I realized at some point, you know, I have information and I have things I'd like to share with you myself. And so because I help entrepreneurs and professionals transform their ideas to action, I want to share some trends, some information, some ideas and some tips with you to help you do just that, with the hope that you catch little nuggets that you can take away and use right away to help you, your team, your employees, if you have them, on your own idea journey. And so today, my topic is going to be professional relationships, because we need to develop professional relationships in order to get our ideas out, in order to get our ideas acted on, in order to get our ideas implemented. And so I want to talk with you about some of the things that I do in order to, and that I teach and that I help my clients with in developing their professional relationships. And this can transfer to any kind of a relationship that you're building, whether it's online or offline, and I'm going to talk about that too. So what I want to do is not just talk about networking, because that's something that most people think about when they think about developing professional relationships, but I want to talk about many different aspects of that, and how having the right people in your corner, the right people to lift you as you climb, helps you to actually transform your ideas to action, probably in shorter amount of time than you might otherwise do. So what I'm going to take you through is really kind of a 7-point process that I go through when I build professional relationships. And so I want you're going to see a chart that kind of lays out the seven steps that I go through. And it may sound like a lot, but I'm going to hit each of these steps in detail in this segment. And if you want to download this image and actually download all of the slides that I have for this show, I want you to email me or contact me, and I'm going to give you a different, well, it doesn't matter what email address you use, but I'm going to give you a different email address for this time to get this information. And I want you to go to Idea, and it's going to be ideamindteam.com. I think, yeah, Ideamind Team, IDEAMINDTEAM, ideamindteam.com. And you're going to see why at the end of the show. And there's a contact button there. Just click on the contact menu and send a note to me, and I can send you the link to these slides, and especially to that graphic, because you're going to want to follow that. As you listen to this, you want to follow that graphic because as I hit each point. So anyhow, let me move on to the points. So the first point about establishing a professional relationship is to identify who do you want to establish relationships with. You can establish relationships with all kinds of people, and here's just a really quick list of the kinds of people that I look at establishing relationships with. These are the kinds of people that can help you move your ideas forward. So you might have referral partners. These are people who they know you, they know what you do, they know what your idea is, and they may not be able to help you themselves, but they can refer you to people who can. So those are referral partners. There are mentors and coaches and guides. These are people that you probably seek in order to help you in one way or another, help you with your business, help you with your personal life, help you with a specific challenge that you're facing. These people can help you move your ideas forward. The who's, so you might want to be seeking that kind of a relationship because you don't have one yet, or you're looking for a different one. If you have vendors and customers, they can help you. You might be seeking vendors and suppliers, and they can help you move your idea forward because they might have something that you need. So you might be seeking them. You might want to look for, well, of course you're looking for clients, but your current clients, your current customers are the easiest people to possibly refer you to new people. You might be seeking alliances with other people, collaboration partners, joint ventures. These are people that you partner with to actually move your idea into action or help you with your business. So you might be looking for these kinds of people. Other colleagues, other peers are people who you want to establish relationships with. They might, you might see them as competitors, but they really aren't. They can help you, partner with you to move your ideas forward. And of course, there's friends and family. I presume you don't need to look to establish a relationship with them. You already have relationships. But you might want to be thinking about a different kind of relationship, especially with your friends, or if you have a family member who is in business or has a profession that you might not otherwise look to them to help you with. But now that I'm saying this, you might go, oh, wait a minute, that cousin does fill in the blank, and they might be somebody that you might want to create a better relationship with. And of course, there are the online connections. So these are all the types of who's that you might want to list. And I would suggest that you actually take a piece of paper and list all the kinds of people who you might think about building a relationship with who can help you move your idea forward. So those are the who's. The reason you want to think about the who for building relationships is because the next step is to start thinking about, so where do these people hang out? Where do these who's hang out? And there's online and there's offline. So I'm going to take the real quick version first and think about the online connections. And whether it's online or off, what I really want you to do is to only focus on the top 2 platforms, especially online, the top 2 platforms where your who hangs out. And I say that because you can get bogged down with tons of different online platforms. And there's tons of them. There are platforms that we know of and platforms that don't even exist yet online. And you can spend way too much time online in too many platforms. So in focusing on your who that you want to build a relationship with, that should help you drill down and nail down the top 2 platforms where they hang out. For example, if you're looking to establish relationships with professionals and with decision makers and companies, you might want to just focus on LinkedIn and Twitter, because it seems like, at least today, those are the 2 platforms that professionals and decision makers really hang out on. You might look at Facebook and some of the other platforms as secondary or tertiary and really drill down into LinkedIn and Twitter. See how that helps you just focus on 2 platforms, and then you can spend a lot of time on those platforms learning how to use them, learning how to drill down and find the people you're looking for, because it's going to take some time. It's going to take your time to establish relationships. If you're looking to establish relationships with people who I call creatives, you might be looking at Facebook and a more creative hangout that deals more with images, or Instagram and other platforms that creatives hang out with, because they don't hang out in LinkedIn per se, or that might be a secondary or tertiary platform. So you see how if you know your who, then you know to look for where they hang out and focus on them. If you're looking to do business, if you're a business and you're looking to business and consumer, and those are the kinds of people, relationships you want to establish, it might be LinkedIn and Facebook. So again, figure out where your who hangs out and then just focus on those top 2 platforms for now. Doesn't mean you ignore everything else, but it means this is where you spend a lot of time. That's online. If you're offline, I kind of say the same thing. Just focus on no more than 2 or 3 environments or events or platforms offline where you find your who, your people that you want to connect with. I used to have a calendar that probably had half my time filled out going to events. Not just networking events, but going to other events, going to meetings, meeting people one-on-one. That became unproductive. You need to spend time on your business. You need to spend time on establishing relationships. You need to spend time on growing your business, on building those relationships once you've established them. So I kind of, as a rule of thumb, on a monthly basis, I suggest your calendar should be maybe a quarter of the time spent establishing relationships. And then the rest of your time, 75% of your time, you spend building your business, building those relationships, and of course, doing the business that you're building a relationship for. So offline, all kinds of places where your who might hang out. It might be at events, specific events. Associations that they might belong to, especially if they're professional associations. There might be specific meetings that meet once a month, or maybe a one-time meeting where you can find the person, the kinds of people that you want to connect with. Volunteerism, that's a huge way to meet people that you want to connect with. You know, I find that especially business executives and decision makers, they really spend a lot of their time that they're not in their business in a volunteer role. So you might find that like Habitat for Humanity or Girl Scouts, which happens to be my big volunteer, or Best Friends Animal Shelter. Anyway, someplace where the people that you'd like to meet hang out, go volunteer, spend time there to build those relationships. There could be chambers of commerce and professional organizations. I'm a speaker and a trainer, so my professional organizations are National Speakers Association and American Society for Training and Development. I think they shortened their name at this point, just to T&D, Training and Development. So those are the 2 associations that I would focus my time building relationships with. There are community functions. I find that when I do some community work, there are people in my community who have positions and can help me implement my ideas in a business sense, and I meet them at a community function. So you might look at your community functions. You know what? Even standing in line at the post office, here's a tip. Always carry business cards. Carry a couple of them in your wallet, even if you're not carrying a business card holder, because I find that I never know who I'm going to be talking to. In the line at the post office, and yes, I still go to the post office because I happen to like Ed, my postal guy, and I like talking to him. I like getting out of the house because I work alone. So I go to the post office to mail packages especially, and not all the time, but sometime. And I build relationships sometimes in line. Every now and then, I've ended up reaching in my wallet, giving out a business card. So you just never know. The checkout line at the grocery store. So those are that's another way to find people to build relationships. So that's a real quick list of some of the where your who might hang out. So the next step is, once I know where they hang out, I start figuring out where do these people, what do they like? What are the people that I want to reach? What do they like? What do they like? What do they need? What do they like to do? Because I want to, before I even meet them, figure out what might interest them. Now, you might not know the individual yet, but you know the kind of person that you want to reach. So I go poking around because I need to meet business executives and decision makers. I go to LinkedIn And I start poking around to see, so who's out there, especially here in the local area, because I start locally first, and I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, or I do some LinkedIn searches, and I start going through their profiles to see what they're into, what they might like before I reach out to meet them. And this is the strategy for reaching out online as well as offline. You want to reach out to them and introduce yourself and say, hey, I see you like golf. I see you like boating. I see you like riding a motorcycle. So do I. Have you been to Rolling Thunder here in Washington, D.C.? And that's an opening line to somebody that I find out likes riding motorcycles, because I ride a motorcycle. Look on Facebook and look at profiles and look at personal pages to see, and in groups, to see what kind of groups attract the people that you want to connect with. Google people. If you know a name, Google them. See what they're into. You might look at books and newspapers and press releases to see whether the kinds of people that you're interested in meeting are mentioned in them. And in so doing, you'll find out what they might like or what they're interested in. There are publications. I'm going to give you the names of some, especially if you're into small businesses and looking at entrepreneurs to connect with. I look at Forbes, I look at magazine, I look at Inc. magazine, Fast Company magazine, Entrepreneur magazine. They all have a .com related to them, just to see what are startup founders into, what do they like, and what do they need. That gives me some background so that when I do meet people, I'll say, hey, listen, I read in Inc. magazine where startups, founders of tech companies seem to really have a challenge in growing their staff. Do you face that challenge too? And that's a good opening line, or a small talk kind of a line to a conversation to engage in when I actually meet a startup founder. So find out what people like who are in the category of the person you want to meet, because that gives you some ammunition. Well, ammunition sounds bad. That gives you some fodder for conversation when you meet them. So that's how, find out what they need and like and do. And then the next step is to prepare to meet them. That makes sound kind of weird, prepare to meet them, but some planning up front before you go out to meet them or before you connect with them helps. So, so there's a lot involved in the planning, and I'm only going to cover a little bit here on the show, because this is what I do in my consulting and to help people get ready to actually connect with the people that they need to connect with. So for your planning, here's some tips. Set some time limits on the time that you're going to spend out. Plan on going out for 2 hours if you're going to an event. Say, I'm going to spend and allot 2 hours to this event. And in so doing, you can schedule, you can plan around how long you're spending on the road and traveling and all of that. So plan your time, set your time, and then before you go out and meet people, plan a script. This may sound kind of weird, but I have a script running in my head of what I'm going to say in an opening when I meet somebody, what I'm going to say in conversation, and that's what finding out what people like and what they need helps you do. It helps you script out, and I don't mean you're going to actually follow a script, but it means you get some words in your head that you're going to say when you actually meet that person, when you actually make that connection. So I have some opening lines, and it's not like, going to a bar and saying, hey, baby, what's your line? What's your sign? That's not the kind of opening line I'm talking about. I'm talking about, especially if you're an introvert and you're not comfortable meeting somebody that you don't know. I happen to love it. I walk up to total strangers and the whole groups of people, and I just walk up, hold my hand out and say, hey, I'm butting into your conversation. I'm Sylvia Henderson, and then I start talking. But a lot of people are not comfortable doing that. So especially if you are an introvert and you're uncomfortable meeting people that you don't know, think about a couple of things that you might want to say to them. When you go up to somebody, you might say, so, hi, your name, and I know this kind of is a tired line, but at least it helps. So what brings you here tonight? or what brought you here to this event? And that gets them talking about maybe who invited them or why they came. You might ask, and of course, the what do you do, but that's an old tired line too. So I usually don't start with the so what do you do. I'll start with and what interested you about, or how do you know the person who invited you. Some questions that I've seen other people ask or heard other people ask are now that you're here, what's one of the biggest challenges that you have in meeting new people? Because I have that challenge too, and that opens people up. See, that's not immediately what do you do. Then you launch into a conversation about what do you do, because that might be a natural transition. But if you have that in the back of your head, that helps you initiate a conversation. So have something that's comfortable for you in the script before you go out, before you go meet somebody. And that serves you for a one-on-one meeting if you're going to meet somebody for coffee, as well as going to an event or going to a meeting. Think about what is it, why are you going? What information do you want to get? What information are you seeking? What kind of a connection are you looking to make when you go meet somebody? So have that in the back of your head before you go out. So this is all in the planning. You might want, one of the biggest ways for people to remember you is when you give them something of value. You're thinking, okay, I'm just going out to meet somebody. How can I give them something of value? Well, you have an expertise. You have something that you do that you could maybe share a couple of tips with someone. So again, for me, because I'm about implementing ideas, somewhere in a conversation, I might, when I find out what they're interested in or what they do or what challenge they might have, I might give them a tip and say, you just said you have a lot of ideas, and sometimes you get overwhelmed with what you want to implement or what you want to work on. One of the things that I help my clients do, that tells them you have clients. One of the things that I do in my coaching, that might tell them you're a coach. One of the things I do when I consult with companies, that might tell the person that I'm meeting that, oh, I consult with companies. So they're in their heads thinking, oh, she does that. But I'm not saying, oh, I'm a consultant. I say, one of the things I do when I'm consulting with my clients is, I tell them to write things down. When they have a lot of things in their head and they have a lot of ideas, I suggest to them that they just take a piece of paper or grab a tablet at their nightstand and just write down the things that they're noodling over and that they're thinking about, just to get it out of their heads. And that way they get it out, and then they can move on to clear their heads to some other thoughts. That's just a little tip that if that helps you, great. If it doesn't, hey, I just threw it out there. What that does is the person who I just told that to is thinking, whoa, that's a good idea. Or, you know what, I do that. I need to remember to do that again. But it's something of value in 2 or 3 sentences that they'll remember me later. They'll remember that I consult with businesses. They'll remember that I gave them something of value. So think about how you can do that when you want to establish that professional relationship. So that's just a few tips on what to do, what to plan for before you go out. Then the next step is get out and meet the person. Like I said, make sure you have on your calendar a set amount of time that you're going to spend doing that. So get out and meet people. Make sure when you meet them, one of my personal bugaboos is getting cards or getting their information and not having all their information. So just a real quick tip. Make sure if their business card doesn't have everything on it, ask them, oh, I see your email isn't on here. Can you give me your email? Because that helps you follow up. I see your phone number is on here. Is that a cell phone or is that your business landline phone? I know fewer and fewer people are using landline. I'm old-fashioned. I still do. So I like to make sure I know if I have their cell phone or their phone number, their email, because that helps you follow up. And like I said, a lot of cards are no longer having them. And I'm going to quickly go through the next couple because I'm coming to the end of our time today. Once you've gotten their information and you get back home, you get back to your office, then it's time to start the follow-up, start the engagement, and you want your engagement to be valuable and it's ongoing because you may have heard the statistics. Sometimes that relationship doesn't get established until It might be established on the first 2 or 3 engagements. It might be 7 engagements. It might be a year or 2 before you really establish a solid, trusting engagement that starts to bring you business. And again, it depends on why you were creating, back to the who and the why you were creating that relationship to begin with. And then the follow-up is also making asks. It may not be asking for business right off the bat. In fact, I suggest it's not. It might be asking for referral, asking to buy somebody coffee so that you can get to know them better. I find that when I say, hey, especially for decision makers, can I buy you coffee and spend a few minutes, honor their time, to just learn more about your business, learn more about you. That usually gets me an appointment because they're busy people. But the fact that I said I want to buy you coffee means that I'm not just, hey, I want to pick your brain, which is a lot of what I get. So just a real one tip on how to continue building that relationship. And all along the way, as I come to a conclusion on this, all along the way, you'll see on that chart that I have call to action along the side. Those calls to action are not always do business, do business, do business. They might be, hey, I know that you said you ride a motorcycle or you like motorcycling. Do you know about a great motorcycle mechanic? Can I give you the one that I use? So your call to action might be, let me give you something. Are you open to a suggestion? Are you open to a recommendation? And it might be, may I come and watch you do what you do, because you want to use that person as a mentor later. So your calls to action are all along, but you can determine by the relationship you've built what that call to action might be. So I gave you a lot of information in this one segment. Go back and listen to this. This is all related to building a professional relationship effectively so that you can transform your ideas into action. And so I leave you with, tune in to our next show. And I'm Sylvia Henderson. This is Idea Success TV, and I invite you to connect with me at, I gave you a website, ideamindteam.com. If you throw up the slide that has, okay, that's good enough, ideamindteam.com, you can contact me there and get that graphic that you saw so that you can follow through and listen to this again and reinforce how to create those professional relationships. I'll see you next show. Thank you for watching Idea Success TV. Idea Success TV is a syndicated production of the Idea Success Network and Village Connector Media, the People's Prosperity Network. Permission to share, repost, and rebroadcast is freely given, provided it's done without charge of an access fee. If you have questions about this broadcast, or if you'd like to be a part of an upcoming segment, please contact us at Idea Success TV Contact. Thank you for listening and watching Idea Success TV.